you can thread the needle of like, this is a tough path to walk. You can walk it, but it's not an easy path to walk.
We got BLG coming up here in the green room. He's going to join us right now here on Birds 365. You can follow him at Brandon Gowton and read all his work at bleedinggreennation.com. Make an account on there, interact with all the great people, respond to BLG's articles. It's a great community, great Eagles spot to be. BLG, welcome to the program, man. Never a dull moment in the city of brotherly love. How you doing this morning, man?
Absolutely. Always something to talk about. I am looking forward to getting into it this morning.
We haven't talked, shockingly, because we've been talking so much about the offense, which is amazing because the defense played poorly against the New York, very poorly. And now all of a sudden they get back from the mini bye and Big Z saying, you know what? I'm done. I think that surprised us all. He seemed happy to be here. He was asked the question, did you ever even think about retirement? And he was like, nope, I got plenty left in the tank. And all of a sudden he said, I'm done. Bad for the Eagles. Do they have to make a move? Is there any possibility they can stay in-house with this edge group at this point, BLG?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know that they need to go out and get, literally Trey Hendrickson, but I think they just need I think they need multiple things here at edge rusher. I think they need someone who can make more of an impact. They also probably just need more like bodies at that position when you're getting light here after you've lost Obo Okoronkwo, after you've lost Nolan Smith IR. Obviously, he's expected to come back at some point here around the bye, perhaps. And obviously you lose Za'Darius Smith as well. I think they just need some more depth at that position, in addition to obviously trying to be able to add someone who can actually start or be, a high level rotational player at that spot.
What do you think, real quick? Your personal assessment of Jalyx Hunt, because that seems to be a player. There's certain players, Kelly Ringo, where Vic is like, not playing. With Jalyx, he's always like, yeah, he's playing good. He's playing good. I don't see it. I think he's very good. I shouldn't say very good. I think he's better against the run, setting the edge, than he is as a pass rusher. And I think he was brought in as a developmental pass rushing tag on him. I think he's a solid player. I think he'd be a good number 3 or even number 4 in a rotation, but as number 1, and that's what he is right now, going into Minnesota, he's number 1. That is a bad position to be in from my perspective. Why do you think Vic likes him so much?
I mean, you see the effort, and he's like such a likable guy. I think, as a personality that, I think there are
Keely's likable. I like Keely.
Well, yeah, but I think that maybe not the effort always, but some of the I think he can trust Jalyx Hunt out there. When you're Keely Ringo and you're not touching the guy down after you give up a big reception, how the heck is the coach supposed to even trust you to be out there on the field if you don't know the rules and you need to touch a player down? Like, I just think there's a lack of trust there with Keely. Whereas I don't think, Jalyx Hunt has like burned Vic Fangio in that kind of way. So you're right though, John. It's absolutely not ideal. And I think, it's kind of Jalyx Hunt kind of becoming a victim of his own success in a way, in that, he has this promising rookie campaign ahead of schedule, I would say. I think anyone would agree with that, considering his background. But that doesn't mean that he just, necessarily is going to go from where he was as a rookie and automatically take off in this major way in year 2. Like you said, this is a developmental kind of player that they took on. It might take a little bit more time than just, his rookie season.
All right, BLG, I'm going to do it. John, I know you're mad at me, but I got to do it. You can bring them back to the defense if you want. BLG, you're spending almost 5 times on offense than you are on defense. They took a blowtorch to Vic Fangio's number 1 overall defense. They got this big, expensive, high-powered offense. They're ranked 30th in the NFL, BLG. I mean, you want me to figure out what's wrong with the Eagles right now? I'm pointing to the offense first before the defense, even if the defense does give up 30 a game. You pay for more on the offense. I'm expecting more. How do you analyze the offense right now? It almost seems like if we don't have the best offensive line in football, BLG, we can't be a good offense. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think that's a fair framing. And I also think the defense at times of the season has really carried their weight. And I don't really think you can say that about the offense as much for sure. And I think the defense, has been put in a lot of bad situations because of the offense. While they're not perfect, while they're flawed, I think, they've done a decent enough job where if the offense has been functioning or had been functioning more like they should reasonably expected to perform, then the defense wouldn't be, as big of an issue as it seems right now. So I absolutely put more of the onus on the offense as well. And I think just across the board, like it's a broken offense right now. There's no identity. The play calling, obviously, there's questions about that. You have Lane Johnson talking about it. Nick Sirianni, I always come back to what is he doing? I know, he's not calling the plays. I don't know how involved he is in design. We don't know that, fully, but I mean, he's the head coach. So when the offense is struggling to this effect, he has to help come up with solutions at some level. And by the way, again, he picked the offensive coordinator. We all know that. So like he wears some blame in this. Jalen Hurts has to be better. I thought that was his worst game of the season on Thursday night. The effort at times across the board isn't there. I kind of, that's on the players to obviously have more pride, and that shouldn't be an issue. It's also on the coaching staff to never tolerate that. I don't know why that gets tolerated so often. So I really look at it across the board and say that there's so much blame to wear.
Yeah, certainly it's a conflation of things, and I think everybody has their thumb in some parts of the problems. But I think for the first time, and I often talk about this off season, there was a stunning, and we do the show every day, obviously, and there was a stunning lack of talk about the quarterback coming off a Super Bowl win, understandably. I don't think it's that much difference. The passing game specifically, I think it's the same as it was last year, to be honest, BLG, for the most part. The difference to me is they can't run the football. Mm-hmm. So they no longer have the crutch to mask the deficiencies in the passing game. Nothing's changed. They're late to the line of scrimmage. The ball doesn't come out. When do people start having, we've started on this show just recently, when are people going to start having these difficult conversations? And to me, it is, there's some issues with the quarterback.
It's weird, though, because while I agree that Jalen Hurts, again, part of the problem here right now, especially after that performance we just saw, like that first half of the Buccaneers game, one of the best first halves of his career, right? Early in the Giants game, even, he played relatively well. Yeah, like, so it's not just as like, he just stinks all game long. And obviously, there's 4 quarters. I'm not saying he needs to be just like the Eagles themselves need to be better for all 4 quarters. There's moments within here. And even going back to week 1, where I thought Jalen Hurts bailed them out a lot. Like that offense.
I think he won that game.
Exactly.
But let me just push back real quick, BLG, because I think, and I've even said, this seems to me the week where he's going to go out and everybody's down, and he's going to go out and have a big game against Brian Flores and a good defense on paper. And I think he's going to have a big game. He's going to sit at the post-game podium and say, is that what you wanted to see? Or some paraphrasing. And everybody's going to be copacetic for a week, and you're going to go back to the inconsistency. Mm-hmm. Obviously, those up points have always been there, and they will continue to be there. The consistency is my problem.
For sure.
It is my problem. And I don't think it's getting fixed.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, I think that's a fair gripe at that point. And I do think, to your point, it could be a good week for him. We used to talk about how, oh my gosh, how the Eagles are going to handle the blitz. They literally have no answers. Now Jalen Hurts has seemed to master that. Maybe that's actually a good matchup for him.
I know, it's crazy,
Brian Flores this week, which is funny. Yeah, but I think that's a fair point. I think the consistency absolutely needs to be better. And especially, again, when you have this supporting cast that he does. I mean, think about what Jackson Dart's working with out there on Thursday night. He's freaking little Jordan Humphrey.
Yeah, and I mean, dude, that's what I mean. Holy crap. Please don't get me started on that, BLG. Oh, my goodness. Little Jordan Humphrey is dominating.
Wandell Robinson. Who needs Malik Neighbors when Wandell Robinson is playing like Malik Neighbors? Yeah, it was a poor performance all around. And I do think Look, I think that's a low point because they lost to her. I by no means, I've not tried to shade that loss at all. That is a brutal loss in the NFL. And I think that will be a low point. I think they'll rebound. I think they went into that game probably less focused than normal. It was a short week. They probably said, we're going to roll over this team, and they got bitten in the ass. I think they'll correct things to a certain level, but to me, if they don't fix the running game, and I don't know how you fix the running game because I don't think it's Saquon, but the numbers are the numbers. And I think contextually, the offensive line is still, it's not what it was last year, but it's still top 10 in the league. Lane's playing well. Jordan's playing well. We know Landon with the injuries. We know Cam with the injuries not playing up to their speed. I think Tyler Steen has been better than I thought. I don't think Brett Toth is going to help much, but look, everybody else is dealing with it. Dallas had 4 injuries on their offensive line, and they have one of the best offenses in football.
Mm-hmm.
You got to persevere in this league. I don't know how they fix the running game, and if they can't fix the running game, maybe Eric Wilson is the fix, our old buddy out in Minnesota. But if they don't fix the running game, I don't know how you turn this offense around because they can't just change their philosophy mid-season overnight.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not going to be the person in Philadelphia who's like, Jeff Stoutland, go after, everyone needs to go after him. But I mean, he's the run game coordinator, and the run game flat out sucks right now. And they have to figure that out. I think the Cowboys point there, John, is great because, not only a banged up offensive line, but, Javonte Williams looked great. Does anyone want Javonte Williams over Saquon Barkley? Really? I don't think so. And to add some more context to this, shout out to Niz Selman here, who points out Saquon is being contacted behind the line of scrimmage on 35.8% of his carries this season. That's second most in the NFL. And most in his career. Think about that. Those bad Giants offensive lines.
Giants, yeah.
This is even worse than that in terms of how early he's being contacted. So it can't just it's hard to feel like, to your point, that the offensive line is just terrible and has no hope given the talent that they've had. I've mentioned before, I do think, the toll of last year's physical style, how they played in terms of running so much is taking.
Yeah, I'm starting to be on your team with that.
Yeah.
I mean, those were the guys getting beat up, not Saquon. Right. He wasn't getting touched until 4 or 5 years.
And again, and Tyler Steen too, like he looks like rather healthy. He wasn't out there like those other guys were.
Yeah.
So if we don't have the greatest run game, the easy solution to me, BLJ, because you're right. I mean, the offensive line's getting paid. Saquon and Barkley's getting paid. Is to use the receivers that some call, the best tandem in the league, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. We don't seem to be able to do that, and I think that's a problem because I don't think we should – look, I get it. We've built we've buttered our bread on the offensive line and the running game. I'm not of the belief if you can't dominate in that realm, then you should just be the 30th offense in football. I don't. Why do we pay A.J. and Devontae if that's the case? It doesn't make sense to me. So that's where I understand where people, look and just say – won't even name names. Would a different skill set allow you to play a different way or be a different type of team? And I think those calls are going to grow if the offense can't get it going.
Well, something has to give at some point if the offense continues to be this bad. Like right. Nick can say, they're not going to change anything. It's 6 games into the season. But they're coming off their mini bye, but their actual bye, is fast approaching. And if the offense looks terrible against both, the Vikings and the Giants again, I mean, I think real change is probably coming at that point. Or if it's not, then I don't know when it will at that point. But yeah, it's just it can't underperform for this long. It's just there's no good reason for it.
If it goes on and the Eagles go back to sort of normal, I do think the Thursday night was probably the low point. And say they win 11 games and they lose on the wild card round. Is that where it becomes well, we're just going to fire the offensive coordinator. We're going to force Nick to go outside the organization. It's going to be that stitch. Then they're going to try to, whoever, maybe it's Mike McDaniel. Everybody, you bring in Mike McDaniel. He tries to run motion for the first 3 weeks. They go, we can't do this, and scale back to, if they just do that circle again, or is it time to have tough conversations that, hey, if we're going to continue to play this way, we just have to embrace the running game and move on from the receivers. Or if we don't want to play this way, we got to move on from the running back, or dare I say, we have to get a different quarterback. Is it time to have those discussions? That's a long hypothetical.
Yeah.
An ode to Jody McDonald.
Right.
But where's that breaking point to BLG?
Well, I think the head coach is the breaking point before the quarterback is the breaking point. That's, I would say, often the case. And obviously, again, a lot of things have to happen to get to that point. But this is like a big, pet peeve of mine. And just in terms of how we talk about, play caller inconsistency and all that, I talk about it a ton on the show here. Like, offensive coordinator stability is not a real thing in the NFL. Like, you just really do not see that.
It isn't. You're right.
And therefore, the way to get around that is to have a head coach who calls the plays, or at least can, even if maybe they're not calling the plays, have like a big hand in the offense that you feel comfortable with. Such as maybe like, obviously this is a top example, like Andy Reid. Sometimes he defers out play calling, as we've seen over the years, but obviously it's Andy Reid's offense. He has a big influence on that offense. And this is a big weakness of Nick Sirianni. And guess what? It wasn't like the Eagles hired Nick Sirianni to not have that be the thing. He was calling the plays originally. Like, they did, and that's been their model for years. They did have Andy Reid do that. They did have Chip Kelly do that. They did have Doug Peterson do that. So they wanted that to happen originally, but Nick's incompetence there, quite frankly, wasn't good enough. So they've had to outsource that.
A fair point.
And it's been a constant issue for them. So that's just my frustration. Like, he absolutely has to wear blame in this. You don't just get to put in a box to decide.
I mean, the head coach is always going to be blamed.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, I think he gets the extra year. So sure. I think the scapegoat is Kevin, which will be interesting. Yeah. Plus they're so close. So I've often said there might be some pushback where there wasn't going to be pushback with Brian Johnson. There might be some pushback with Kevin Patullo, and then he might go the Doug Peterson route where he says, you know what? I won a Super Bowl. I should do this. I should be this. And who knows? It can go off the rails that quickly. But I don't know. I just think nobody wants to play this style of offense in that building. And they're all playing that style of offense to accentuate the quarterback. And it's worked to a ludicrously successful degree. And I think it's created this air of misery because nobody wants to play this way, but they feel they have to play this way. Am I overstating that?
I mean, I think that's a real element. And it's not even just from last year, too. We saw that in like the second half of Jalen Hurts' first season as a starter in 2021. Like, they started to run the ball a lot more coming out of the bye and shifted away from, being so pass heavy. So even going back to that, and going back to last year when, he's throwing 30 plus times a game in the first 4 games of the season before the bye, afterward, and he said, the turnovers are there. Afterwards, they go away from that. So, like, at a very simple level, the offense got better when Jalen Hurts was less involved. That doesn't mean, obviously, again, he didn't contribute and didn't make important plays when he had to. And it's easy to say, all he had to do was take care of the ball. Not every quarterback can do that. The quarterback the Eagles might play this week can't do that very well.
That's what's so strange. He makes a crap load of plays. He's just such an unconventional, successful quarterback. And to your point, week 1, he won that game. I firmly believe that. He carried the Eagles over the finish line. So it's a really difficult conversation to have. Really difficult.
He's a unique player.
I wonder on some of those runs how much money they're leaving on the table. You take a 12-yard run, but you maybe have a 40-yard opening or something. I don't know. I don't want to speak on that because I can't see the whole thing, and I'm not going to act like I know. But I do wonder that at times, you know.
It goes both ways. Yeah, there's times probably where that's the case. There's times probably where there's nothing, and he's making something out of nothing.
That's
so, yeah.
true.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. It's just but I wouldn't want to be in that position to make that decision. To be honest, it is because they don't want to play this way.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always
BLJ.
What's that?
What do you think Jeffrey Lurie thinks? I mean, this guy's
frustrated.
Kind of famous for like, I want the high flying passing.
Not kind of famous.
Well, yeah. The classic example is when the Eagles go to Green Bay. When Doug was here, right? And it was that like a big Jordan Howard game. Eagles running game is awesome, but Carson Wentz throws for, I don't know, 100 yards, whatever. Passing game offense not quite there. Jeffrey Lurie's like, what's the deal with this? Even after the Eagles got a big win in that spot. So I would think so. He's paying all this money for, it's again, it'd be one thing if the offense was kind of just like average in a lot of these metrics. That would still be disappointing, but I think you could be like, okay, offensive line kind of beat up, new play caller. You can excuse some things to an extent, but to be this inept and just to look flat out hopeless at times for like big portions of games, that's just unacceptable.
Yeah, especially when you see when they do get that burst down, it seems like they have tremendous efficiency. Like it's such a weird offense. When they do get going, the red zone is unbelievable. First in the NFL. They're unbelievably efficient when they start to get moving, when they start to get rolling, but then they have 4 straight 3-and-outs or 4 or 5. It's I can imagine their frustration. And no matter how much we talk about it, I can't explain it. I'm sure they can't explain it. Other than this is a very difficult way, I keep coming back to play football. Like you're making it harder on yourself, but you're making it harder on yourself, and all you've had is success.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Well, I think that you can thread the needle of like, this is a tough path to walk. You can walk it, but it's not an easy path to walk.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be, there's certain things you're going to have to do to, set yourself up for success in that scenario, but you're not like necessarily, giving yourself the most room for error is how I'd put it.
Yeah. Yeah. I talk about the margin of error all the time. It's very small with this offense, very small. And I don't think that's where anybody wants to be, but I'm at the stage where in their current incarnation, I don't know where there's going to be much improvement outside of execution. And people hate when you say that. When they hate when Nick says it, they hate when I say it. They probably hate when you say it. Well, they have to execute better. They're not changing their philosophy. So other than executing better, playing better, doing better the way they're built to run this offense, I don't see a lot of room for improvement. They're not going to become a Kyle Shanahan offense, a Sean McVay offense. This is it. So they better figure out the running game, number one, and then they'll get back to where potentially they were last year. And arguably, at times, even in that Giants game, from a throwing perspective, take out the interception, they were better than they were in the majority of games last year. But I think that was masked by all the winning.
I think effort needs to be better too, and that's not something I just like call out all the time. But you see it on film with this offense.
Dory Jackson and
for sure on defense too. But like with the offense, just guys just jogging out their routes way too often. And I get there's playing wide receiver is probably a lot harder than most people would think in terms of you're running all these routes, you're not getting the ball, but that's what the money is for. And you saw it in the Giants game with what I think is still a bad throw from Jalen Hurts, but Jahan Dotson kind of like rounding out that route there. That's not the best route I've ever seen in my life. No. Obviously, AJ, there's been cases where that, not running out the route fully. So I think that just shouldn't be acceptable. And that's not new. And I don't know how, Nick Sirianni, who preaches master the things that require no talent, is like tolerating that. And I have a tough time, and I'm not watching, Chiefs all 22 and Lions all 22, but I have a tough time. Like Andy Reid and Dan Campbell are, tolerating that kind of effort. That seems like, to me, part of a culture problem.
All right,
did you see that last year, though?
Probably at times. There could have been at times, but that's okay. But if you're functioning overall as an offense, maybe you're afforded some more grace in that area. When you're trying to get things going and you are struggling so much, maybe the effort needs to tick up a little bit more.
That's a fair point.
All right, BLG, final one for me. Don't shoot me. I'm just the messenger. ESPN put up an article today. They do this thing. Jeremy Fowler wrote his piece on, should we be worried about the Eagles offense? Are they worried about it? And Jeremy Fowler writes here, one player told me that this is starting to feel like the 2023 meltdown all over again. And the team needs to use this week to figure things out and avoid a full-blown repeat. Are you in that boat at all? Is that crazy? What do you think about that comment from Jeremy Fowler on ESPN?
I'm definitely alarmed by how the Eagles just got bullied. I mean, how many times, to Nick Sirianni's credit, I've given him a lot of criticism here. To his credit, at least in the past, this team has been ready to play, like incredibly more often than not. They were not ready to play against the Giants. So that was pretty alarming to me. And that kind of did remind me about how the worst of it looked in 2023 down the stretch there. It's early enough where there's so much season left that I'm not ready to say they're going to have that same stretch where they totally just look lost and helpless. And it's going to be like this, literally the entire, how many games 11 games they have left. I think that's too long of a stretch to say. And obviously they have a bye week in here too. And I think that can help them a little bit coming off the mini bye, but there's like very real warning signs here for sure. When you look at, how they rank in terms of like the advanced metrics like DVOA, and they're middle of the pack team and point differential, and they've been outgained in every game. Like all these are indicators that they're not a great team, and they're 4-2, and that's great in terms of, and having these tiebreakers over the Rams and the Bucks, like that's valuable to have, but all the indications are they just need to play a lot better, or else they're headed down a path where they're going to finish the year and be a lot more closer to 500 than they would like to be.
Yeah, I hate the 2023 comparisons only because it's Vic Fangio. It's not Sean Desai and Matt Patricia. That the collapse in 23 was not totally, but 80% defense.
Right. Could it be 80% offense this year?
That's potentially more so. I know the defense is not going to fall to the level they fell against the Giants simply because.
Shout out to Dick. I mean, he's taking accountability at the press conference yesterday, and they're rolling out a bunch. Keely Ringo, Adoree Jack. I mean, they gave him nothing this offseason. A bunch of Emu signings. None of them have worked.
But he's so much better than what they had in 2023. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I think also that's 2023 BLG is an example why I don't care. You can fire Kevin Patullo after the season. Do not fire him in season, because Matt Patricia is a better football coach than Sean Desai, but they got worse when they moved from Sean Desai to Matt Patricia. Yeah. I think it could get worse if you move from, and who are you going to move to?
That's the question,
Kevin Patullo to Jason Michael. I mean, what
he called plays from Bowling Green. He called plays at Bowling Green.
Yeah, Scott Leffler, the quarterback coach. Then you got to bring in another quarterback coach for the quarterback that's had so many different quarterback coaches. That to me would make it worse.
Well, yeah. Also, I don't think you're going to change your offense on the fly. Like this is what the off-season practices are for. Like you're installing what you do. You're not like, all right, we're going to install a brand new system just out of nowhere. Like they don't even practice a ton, like as Fangio will tell you. So like,
and they'll scale back. And now this is the time of year you'll start seeing walkthroughs.
Exactly.
You're 100% right. They don't practice. You can't.
Well, John, you came on this program a lot, and you as well, BLG. Also, all training camp, they don't push the ball downfield. They throw underneath. They throw these. They don't do anything offensively in prep. I don't know. That's what they were practicing. Maybe this is the result of that.
And by the way, I'd like to see a flat throw to Will Shipley. Throw it out there. See what happens.
Yeah.
They did it 100 million times in training camp. I don't know. Simple stuff. Stay ahead of the sticks. I do think that's a big problem. No more 2nd and 13s.
Yeah.
Just stay ahead of the sticks.
All right, BLG, your final thought. And real quick, do they get back in the win column this week? We got Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison going up against Ringo and Jackson, assuming Quinyon might not play. Do they get back in the win column this week?
Yeah, when you frame it like that, it's like almost insane to pick the Eagles. Right?
Well, remember who's throwing those guys the football, BLG.
Oh, yeah, that is the key. That is the key. I do think Carson Wentz, assuming it's him, we don't know yet officially, I guess, but assuming it is Mr. Wentz back there, he's going to take sacks. He's going to fumble the ball like he always does.
Yeah,
he could give them an interception or two. So I'm thinking that it's possible that I guess I feel a little foolish just considering how the Eagles played in that game against the Giants, but I don't think I'm totally ready to just say, and they are favored, obviously, by the betting lines, 2.5-point favorite.
I think Jalen's going to have a big game. He generally bounces back in these circumstances when the talk starts to ramp up, and he generally has a big game. I think they're going to play well, and I think they're probably going to escape with a win, to your point. Carson's going to turn it over, man.
Yep.
So there'll probably be a 50-yard Jefferson touchdown or something like that, or Addison gets behind there'll be that, but I think when it comes down to it, they'll win the turnover battle and win the game. That's where I am early in the week.
Yeah, I'll give them a field goal win, so they barely just cover.
All right, we'll see. I don't know who I'm picking yet. BLJ, man, we appreciate it as always. Always bring good truth to the conversation. We appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you again next week. All right.
Sounds good. See you guys.
Thanks, bud.